Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
A father holds a funeral for his 6 sons, all relief workers who are on their way to work, all killed on the same day. In Gaza, trying to make sense of the dizzying death statistics proves futile because once the bodies from a bombardment have been collected, more die.
A global humanitarian crisis is unfolding, and it's getting worse fast. The United Nations food and refugee agencies are facing an unprecedented funding collapse, forcing them to slash life-saving aid across some of the world's most vulnerable regions.
The United Nations is warning that the security situation in Haiti is spiraling further out of control. Violence has intensified, sowing panic and fear among the Haitian population. Addressing the Security Council, the UN Special Representative for Haiti stressed the urgent need for increased international support, calling attention to the worsening humanitarian crisis.
Haiti's humanitarian crisis has reached critical levels. Cholera outbreaks and gender-based violence, especially in displacement sites, are widespread. Insecurity has closed 39 health facilities and over 900 schools in Port-au-Prince. I urge member states to support the 2025 Humanitarian Response Plan. The UN remains committed to helping deliver life-saving assistance, especially to women, girls, and children, and to promoting social peace through government-led efforts.
Salvador praised Kenya's leadership in the international security mission and urged all nations to step up support, calling it a necessity, not a choice.
The World Food Programme and the UN Refugee Agency, or UNHCR, have both announced deep cuts due to a steep drop in donations from top historical donors, including the United States and several European nations. These agencies are now warning that millions could soon go without food, shelter, or basic medical services that are often their only hope for survival.
For 11 years, the Dalori informal settlement has been home to Goni Momo and more than 100,000 others. But now the food aid they relied on has stopped. They can't go back home or to their farms 50 kilometers away.
All these years, we were unable to plant crops or even collect firewood to sell. Those who did ended up dead or held by Boko Haram.
The United Nations says his situation and that of millions of other displaced people in the Sahel and West Africa is only going to get worse. This is why warehouses are running out of supplies, because donors are cutting funding.
It could possibly get worse in terms of funding. Many of our donors have indicated that they will be reducing funding further. So not just this year, but over time. And in many ways, if you can put it this way, solidarity is in short supply.
In March, the World Food Programme said it needed $620 million to feed refugees and vulnerable people in the region. Otherwise, it warned, it will be forced to suspend operations at the end of this month. The UN Humanitarian Office has also announced it's scaling back or shutting operations in Nigeria and another 9 countries.
The withdrawal of several aid agencies means less support to millions of families dependent on food assistance in West Africa and Central Sahel. Food prices in the region have gone beyond the reach of millions of people affected by conflict and the impact of climate change.
Aid groups point to donor fatigue, new conflicts, and economic instability. Organizations like Doctors Without Borders are struggling with the fallout.
We are already seeing numbers of malnourished children increase as compared to the same time last year by orders of magnitude. We rely a lot on our clinical data. And what we're seeing in April 2025 as compared to April 2024 is troubling.
Recent figures from the WFP suggest nearly 55 million people across Western Central Africa will face acute food scarcity between June and August this year. That's a significant increase on previous years. With donor funding in doubt, aid workers say hundreds of thousands could die. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Maiduguri, Nigeria.
In Gaza, already devastated by conflict, food aid deliveries have been scaled back dramatically, pushing families deeper into hunger. In Sudan, where civil war has displaced millions, refugee camps are reporting shortages of clean water and medicine, with aid workers overwhelmed. Across East Africa, children who once relied on school meal programs are now going hungry, and clinics are running out of supplies.
And we send our condolences to the governments and peoples of the region. The United Nations system is mobilizing to help those in need. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I want to focus today on the dramatic and dire situation that is unfolding in South Sudan. All the dark clouds of a perfect storm have descended upon the people of the world's newest country and one of the poorest. A security emergency with intensifying clashes, aerial bombing of civilians, including women and children, the presence of external forces, and an ever-growing regional dimension to the conflict. Political upheaval, culminating most recently with the arrest of First Vice President Riek Machar. The peace agreement is in shambles. A humanitarian nightmare, with about 3 out of 4 South Sudanese needing assistance, half the population severely food insecure, and cholera breaking out. A displacement crisis, with more than 1 million people crossing the border from Sudan since fighting began there. And an economic meltdown, with oil revenue plummeting and inflation skyrocketing 300%. Finally, a funding crisis, with much of the already limited humanitarian and development aid drying up. Meanwhile, ethnic and political targeting by security forces, coupled with the spread of misinformation on social media, is lighting the fuse for even worse. Let's not mince words. What we are seeing is darkly reminiscent of the 2013 and 2016 civil wars, which killed 400,000 people. Our UN mission in South Sudan is working around the clock to ease tensions, engaging all parties, and boosting protection of civilians. But we face operational limitations. For the sake of the long-suffering people of South Sudan, it's time for dialogue and de-escalation. The Horn of Africa is already in turmoil and cannot afford another conflict, nor can the people of South Sudan. To the leaders of that country, I say, end the politics of confrontation. Release detained military and civilian officials now. Fully restore the government of national unity and vigorously implement the promises you made through your commitments to the peace agreement, which is the only legal framework to peaceful, free and fair elections in December 2026. I also urge the regional and international community as guarantors of the peace agreement to speak with one voice in support of the peace process and against any attempts to undermine it. I just spoke with the chairperson of the African Union Commission this morning. We fully support the AU initiative to deploy the panel of the wise, as well as the efforts of Special Envoy of President Ruto of Kenya. And we'll be working in close cooperation with the AU and IGAD. The people of South Sudan are close to my heart. On my very first visit as High Commissioner for Refugees, I was several days with South Sudanese refugees, and years later, I accompanied them across the border, finally on their way home.
So what caused this collapse? Several factors are at play. First, donor fatigue. After years of overlapping global crises, COVID, Ukraine, Gaza, governments are stretched thin. Second, rising global inflation and interest rates have reduced how far money can go. And third, shifting political priorities mean humanitarian budgets are being cut to fund domestic issues. Without urgent funding, the UN says the consequences could be catastrophic. More deaths from hunger, disease outbreaks, and rising regional instability. Entire generations risk being lost to famine and displacement if action isn't taken. Aid workers are sounding the alarm, but they need more than sympathy. They need support. The world is at a crossroads. Will wealthier nations step up or turn away?